Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, good. I like to move around, so I find I do better if I'm not constrained to being right in front of the microphone. First of all, I just want to thank, obviously, Principal Freeman, Ms. Pisha, all the faculty and staff here, to the students, family, friends. Congratulations. Big year, right? Big moment. Get yourself a hand. Thank you. It is so good to be back at Spencer High School. I got to tell you, I had such a blast the last time I was here, home in the Green Wave. You guys gave me so much energy. I've been thinking about it every day since, and I can't believe I get to come back here and do it again. And when I was back here last time, I started off by asking a question, and the response I got was so great, I think I want to ask that question again. So, to all the graduating seniors here, just by a quick show of hands, how many of you guys like to lose? Anybody? There you go. What about coming in last place? Who out there likes to come in last place? Anybody? What about failing? Who in here loves to fail? That's good. Now let me ask you these questions. How many of you like to win? Huh? That's what I'm talking about. How many of you like to finish first? How many of you like to succeed? That's great. I love seeing that. I love the feedback. I love the participation. I love your energy. What I love about this time in a young person's life is that you have the opportunity to choose your destiny. That might sound weird to some of you. A lot of people like to say that your destiny is set in stone. You can't change your fate. We can't change the lives we're born into, but what we can change is what we do from this moment forward. And I want to encourage each and every one of you out there today to choose success. And we're going to do that in 3 ways. 3 things I want to talk about. The first is to be persistent. Can you guys say that with me? Be persistent. Good. The second thing is to fail well. Fail well. Say that with me. Fail well. The third is to play your own game. Got that? Say it with me. Play your own game. So when I say be persistent, everybody's heard that before. I like to say it a little differently because what I really mean is to be stubborn. I was thinking about this recently, and I realized that the difference between persistence and stubbornness is only a matter of perspective. See, if somebody's working really hard doing something you disagree with, what are they? They're stubborn. But if you agree with them, they're persistent. Or if somebody does something and they work really hard and it never works out, you call them stubborn. But if they do the exact same thing and it works, you call them persistent. I'm asking you to be stubborn in your pursuit of success in terms of no matter what anybody thinks, no matter what anybody says about you, no matter how it looks like it might turn out, to keep your head down and keep working at it, because that is what separates success from failure. A lot of times you can't tell. You're in the trench, you're too busy digging. You can't look up, look out, and look back to see how far you've come. It's hard to see how much progress you've made when you're busy making progress. That's why it's so important to maintain your persistence. And it is a balancing act. They talk about how there's a fine line between being a genius and being someone who's insane. You never know. Try to be on the right side as best you can, but always work as hard as you can. And when you think you've done as much as you can, try a little bit harder. You'd be amazed what you got inside of you. It reminds me of what I like to call grit. It's a very similar trait. But grit is when you persist at something for a sustained period of time. So when we're talking about grit, you're trying to achieve a goal. Maybe it's winning a championship in your sports team. Maybe it's graduating from high school, right? That takes a lot of effort. You're talking about all the things you had to do. Maybe it's graduating from college. But whatever it is, you've got to hang in there. You've got to keep doing it. It requires a sustained level of effort. It's something you got to keep doing even after it seems like it's not working out. It's something you got to keep doing even after it seems you've been doing the same thing over and over again. It's something you have to keep doing even when it seems you'll never be able to stop. That's grit. But what I love about grit and persistence in general is it takes away the excuse. Because what I've learned is that just because somebody's smarter than you, just because somebody comes from a different area, a different background, a different family, or whatever than you, it doesn't mean you can't succeed any more than they can. You might have to work harder, but that's okay, because you can still get there. It's just like we're talking about getting in front of the chicken line, right? You're trying to get up there. Everybody's in the way. You got to fight and do what you can to get in. And I don't know what it's like, but maybe they run out if you don't get to the line, right? Maybe if you don't get to the front of the line, you don't get the best piece, right? So you gotta get there early, you gotta do all these other things, right? It's a sustained effort. You want to get to the front of the line every week, you gotta get up every week and do it again if you want to get that reward. So in the same way, you've got to persist. So that's what I talk about that's what I mean when I talk about persistence. When I say fail well, what can I possibly mean by failing well? Because there's nothing good about failure, right? Actually, what I love about failure, which is a strange thing to say, I know, but what I love about failure is that in every failure there's a lesson. And if you learn the lessons of your failures, you won't be doomed to repeat those failures. And if you're not doomed to repeat the failures of the past, then in the present, you can do differently. And if you can do differently in the present, then you can keep doing differently until one day you succeed. See, failure, in a way, it's inevitable. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you're going to try, sometime in your life, you probably are going to fail at something. But the key is, I call it fail fast. Fail early. Pick yourself up. Figure out what you've learned and get right back in there and keep going. You know, the first time I tried to interview for a job, I didn't get it. Or the second time, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth, actually, to be honest with you. But I say that. Eventually, I got what I needed. That's kind of how it works. I failed a little bit. I learned what I did wrong. Okay, I'm going to answer that differently. Okay, I'm going to do this differently. Okay, I'm going to prepare my resume differently. Whatever it was. And eventually, I put those successes together that I learned from my failures, and it worked. So the main thing with failure is not to beat yourself up over it. It feels bad. It's not great. You'd rather succeed. You'd rather do the thing you wanted to do. But if you hang in there, if you keep learning, eventually you can succeed. My final point, really my favorite point, is to play your own game. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you're not going to win playing somebody else's game. I'll give you an example. I am not a good swimmer. I'm not. I know how to swim. If I fall off of a ship, I'm not going to drown immediately, but still throw the thing, because I'm not going to be in there for long. It's just not my strength. I don't float. I try. No matter. It just doesn't matter. I can't do it. I'm not a good swimmer. So guess who you're not going to see entering a swimming competition? This guy. Not happening. But what I am good at, I'm pretty good at running. Right? I've got pretty good hand-eye coordination. I'm okay at lifting weights. So if there's a competition that involves those things, maybe I'll try that. So the point there is, when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, when you're trying to see which option you should choose, don't necessarily do what everybody else does if that's not your strength. If you see another path that's going to get you where you want to go, that actually uses the things you're good at, take that path. Because it's so much easier to succeed when you're playing in your own lane. You know, I kind of define a strength as something that you do better than another thing that you do, right? It's all internal to me. I don't compare myself to other people in that regard. So if you look at all the things you know how to do, all the skills you've learned, all the stuff you like to do, some of them are going to be strengths in that you do these the best. Others, they're going to be weaknesses. And a nice point I'll add in with that is, something that for you is a weakness may, when performed at your level, be a strength for somebody else. So just because you're not good at something doesn't mean it's going to derail you from success. But the main thing with strengths is, I tell people, you hear all the time to improve your weaknesses, right? You got to work on your weaknesses. Do that only as much as you have to. Like if you're not good at writing resumes, learn how to do that only as much as you have to. But once you've improved your weakness to a manageable level, work on your strengths. Improve your strengths. Because if you improve your strength, you can become exceptional in an area. And exceptional people stand out. You got to use your advantages. You know, one advantage you might have that I don't know if you realize or not is your youth. Youth is a huge advantage. And I'll use myself as an example. When I was 16, I started my first business. And let me tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was getting into. And if I were to want to do that now, I would see so many more obstacles than I saw when I did it then, right? I say, well, I need to have a certain amount of funding. Well, I need to, I don't have a certain amount of business education. I don't have this, I don't have that. So I might not have done it. But because I was young and I was excited and I believed and I had an idea, I just did it. I just ran out there and I did it. And I learned a lot and I had a whole lot more success than I would have had I not done what I tried. So youth is an advantage. That's not a weakness. The way you look at the world, don't ever let anyone take that away from you. When people say, oh, you're young, you don't know anything, push back. You know stuff. And you're made the way you are for a reason. So when you pursue what you see as your life, when you pursue what you see as the thing you want to do, don't let anybody take it away from you because you're young. Pursue it that much more because of the advantage that your youth gives you. I talked about improving strengths, and the main thing is to look for those opportunities. So there are all kinds of assessments you can even take where you can go online, answer 15 questions. It'll spit out, hey, you're good at this, you're good at that. These are your weaknesses. If you got to improve the weaknesses like we talked about, do that. If you don't have to, don't. So my conclusion to you guys is to remember this time. You know, high school, these are fun years. These are great years. You're going to make friends that you're going to have for life. You're going to have experiences that you're going to look back on fondly for the rest of your life. Remember that and use it. And stay close with each other because those friends are going to help you keep going through life. And as you succeed, be humble. Be humble because the most successful people don't need to tell others how great they are. We see it. You don't have to say anything. But the ones who always have to trumpet their own accomplishments, the people who always have to talk about how great they are, those are the ones nobody wants to be around. Those are the ones nobody likes. Those are the ones nobody wants to work with. I got an amen for you. I think they know the people like the ones I'm talking about. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have accomplished something and people ask you about it, it's appropriate to talk about that. You know, there's no problem with that at all. But always guard against being the person who's quick to talk about themselves. And the next thing I'll tell you is to be helpful. As you succeed, use your success to help others. It doesn't have to be a great big thing. You don't have to solve, world hunger or, produce world peace. But let's say you're in a class and you figured out how to solve a problem and you struggled with it for weeks and you see somebody else. Say, hey, this is what you do, right? This is what I figured out. This is how I did it. This is what I've done. And those are the ways you help each other because what you learn when you see really successful sports teams, companies, businesses, even artists, there's always a team. Even if there's one guy on stage, one woman on stage, there's a whole team of people behind them that help them, right? I mean, you're just not going to be able to do it on your own. And if you are that talented to do it on your own, you will go so much farther, so much faster with a team, all right? So I just want to tell you guys how proud I am of you. It's not a small deal to make it to where you all are. I'm sure there are people who wish they could have made it, who wish they could be sitting in these seats you're sitting, and you should be proud of that because it's not nothing. It is something to be where you are. And I believe in you guys. I know you're going to accomplish great things, and you've got so much energy. I just want to remind you those three things: to be persistent, to fail well, and to always, always, always play your own game, all right? Now, if you guys believe in yourselves and you're excited about the future you want to have, I want you to go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause. Just as loud as you clap for yourself, I want you to stand up and turn to your family and your friends and all the people that have supported you. I want you to give them a round of applause twice as loud for supporting you. It's important to never forget where you come from. It is important to never forget who you are. And it is important to never forget the people who helped you get to where you're going to be. All right, so if you guys remember that, I'm so proud of you. Thank you. God bless you. I wish you all the best of luck.